biggest companies, especially in the growing online market world. It is good times ahead for StarCraft 2 esports. In the top right here, speaking of StarCraft 2 esports, let's cast some from Invictus Gaming, the Terran in the blue. This is Coffee.
And the opponent in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Protoss player who is so darned close to eliminating the reigning champion yesterday. Let's see if he can make up for it today. This is MaxSed. I should say defeat, not eliminate, since of course that was an upper bracket match. But yeah, I mean, MaxSed basically had victory within his sights in a couple of those games. One of them, of course, was Time doing a very, surprising attack. Fair enough. But that final game, the Blink Stalkers were absolutely smashing. And then, unfortunately, MaxSed got excited and said, just kill him. Don't let it slip away. Don't give him time. Trade. And we saw about 16 Blink Stalkers blink into a siege tank. They killed it. But there was about 20 Marines and Marauders with Stim. And every Stalker died for that. And it was about, I think, 13 Stalkers for a siege tank. And suddenly, Time was back in control of the game after it was a fantastic play up to that point. So I'm sure MaxSed is going to be a little more tentative with his aggressive Blink plays in this matchup.
Actually, strangely enough, saw MaxSed go for some defensive 4-gate Blink, which was just something I've not seen before. He did it a few times, in the group stages, which against XY actually. And it was just, I'm like, a 4-gate is going to go be aggressive, and he makes a Warp Prism and everything, and then it's just like, he just kind of sits there and takes a third. So it kind of felt like maybe he's just you can't just dip a toe into the 4-gate pool. You got to dive in head first. Parting knows that more than anyone. And okay, we got a proxy structure here from MaxSed.
Yeah. It's going to be that quick Oracle by the looks of it, into some Phoenix behind that, I would imagine. So it's not the fastest Oracle of all time, but it's very surprising. It's still just a very solid build. He hasn't really cut any corners to get that up super fast. It's just, send a probe over there, proxy the Stargate. But as you said, MaxSed, 4-gate and not really going that hard a lot of the time with the 4-gate Blink. And that's been working so well because Time, XY, these guys like to open aggressive. There's a lot of one-base openings from XY where he likes to do the very quick Hellion Widowmine drops. Time loves to Widowmine drop, 4 Hellion drop. And the thing is, if you are investing in very quick drop attacks, I mean, there's two builds that can be really good against that. One is Phoenix for shutting down the damage, and the second one is Blink 4-gate for the counter attack. Wow, that's a good start for Coffee.
Yeah, this is lovely. I don't think he'll get the second Adept, but still, getting the first one for free is lovely. Void Ray first here from MaxSed. So the Oracle, that's a weird one. I mean, Void Ray's first from a Stargate proxied against Terran is something we've seen time and time again and probably will see again soon. But normally it's near the Terran's main and with shield battery support, Pig. So this is a weird unit come out first.
Indeed. It makes me think he's maybe even thinking about hitting like a Void Ray bust. Now, Void Rays is surprisingly good for actually busting the opponents. Cancel that shade, and he's putting down the gateway to try and buy some time here. Hellions are here as well. Oh my, this is really bad for MaxSed. Recall that Void Ray, I think, might be the right idea. He's going to go into the mineral line and do counter damage. Oh my god, the Widow Mines are going to try and burrow on the Void Ray. If they get that burrow, that's going to be huge because he's about to break the wall on the other side of the map.
Oh no! Oh, MaxSed. MaxSed. Just wasn't watching the Void Ray there. I think he just kind of assumed. But I'm probably... Oh, his main... Is MaxSed just dead? He's just dead.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to lose a ton of stuff. He's lost his Void Ray. His other Void Ray flies in. And hopefully it doesn't just die to Widow Mines. The probes are getting slaughtered by that Hellion Splash. And Stalkers do warp in, but not before 14 probes go down. Finally, SCVs are starting to fall on Coffee's side of the map. MaxSed had a huge worker advantage up to this point. Do keep that in mind. Prismatic Alignment could just bust down a Viking, but the Widow Mines are coming in to seal the deal.
Yeah, Widowmine's coming in to finish off what remains of those probes. A Viking is out now. There's about to be a Cyclone as well, which is more than enough to handle this Void Ray. And with the Widow Mines and the mineral lines, again, MaxSed doesn't have units. And that's split on the probes, not inspired. He lost quite a few more there in the natural. And there's the lock on that Void Ray. Oh, it's one shot. Are you kidding me? How is this working?
Well, there's a Viking and a few Marines about to pop out. The Widow Mines, of course, completely shutting down mining for MaxSed right now. He's only on 18 workers and does actually have a few gateway units, so he's getting his own mining back up at home. If each of these Void Rays... There's two Stalkers walking in, Maynard.
What? Okay, now there's Stalkers in the main, and things get weird now because the Viking now isn't as effective as it would have been.
Oh my
Wait.
lord.
Oh my god.
This is an absolute mess. Coffee has so many more workers. If he stabilizes at all, I mean, he's going to be in a good spot. MaxSed's like, no, macro up behind it, but it's going to take him so long to catch up on that macro. And he's even putting back on gas, which tells us he wants to keep the aggression going. He doesn't want to let up because he knows he's so far behind that he's got to keep doing things right here, right now. But that Void Ray, a tickle from death, and the Viking does take it down. The Marines will be able to push back those Stalkers. That Void Ray takes a fair bit of damage, though. And let's see, he's running out of space to micro. Is MaxSed. He's going to have to stand and fight. The Vikings take it down. The Widow mines the Marines as well. And the Vikings land to shut it down. MaxSed, I think he'll hang out in the game because he has reprobed a little bit, but his chances are bleak.
Yeah, I mean, it's your tournament life on the line. It's best of 5. Yeah, it's map 1, and you would expect someone maybe on map 1 to tap a little bit earlier than they would later. But yeah, this is not great. Stalkers and Zealot just sort of poking into the natural there. They get a couple SCVs, which is great. But strangely enough, Vikings are okay against tiny amounts of Stalkers because that bonus against mechanical. They catch this medevac, which is nice, but it's not denied, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's not completely deflected.
No, not at all. Coffee is now on non-stop Cyclone Marine production, trying to gear up for some sort of big push. Phoenix are going to come over and intercept this drop. Hopefully can shut it down with no more damage. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm looking at it going, yeah, there's totally a chance. Look, the workers have almost caught up, but really there's so much more army already out. And the Phoenix doesn't even micro with it. Oh, no.
Yeah, now the Widow Mines are going to burrow again. You know, I saw that one Phoenix attacking the medevac, and I'm like, well, that's not going to stop it. And the one Stalker coming up in the main base, I'm like, that's not going to stop it either. But now we have multiple Phoenixes, a scan from Coffee. I mean, MaxSed's going to try and fight this out, and valiant effort, though. You know, he's a believer. He's a fighter. You never give up, never surrender. But what I'm worried about here for MaxSed is because of what's happened in the early game, is stuff in StarCraft just snowballs. And there is going to be a push coming up for Coffee, especially with Stim. That I'm, you know, looking into my little cast and crystal ball here, Pig, and I don't see, you know, the things that stop that, like charge lots. Dark Templar. Yeah, the Invisible Man. Pig's that dark. There's a ghostly apparition wearing a dark Sith Jedi cloak. You know, a Sith Lord a Jedi cloak, and he's just saying, "Dark Templar. Make the dark shrine, MaxSed.
To the dark side of the Protoss. Give in. Their power is more than you've ever seen." I mean, they are the comeback units, right? We've seen Zest do it. We've seen even SOS do it recently with his Blink DT style, even when it gets scouted, which was a real treat in the last few months. But Phoenix going to do a little bit of harassment, and Coffee is building on upwards. Very slowly. He's built quite a few Cyclones and Vikings, but now he's just kind of waiting, and he's building more bunkers. So I'm a little confused looking at what Coffee's doing here, because you'd think he would realize just how far ahead he is. I don't know why he's building bunkers, and why he's invested in so many tech units if he's just going to wait for 5 barracks before pushing. So Coffee's played a fantastic early game. He handled things well, but they also came up well in his favor in terms of the build order. Once he got that first adept, it was really big, and then getting the second adept trapped outside the base, that was huge. But he has sometimes he kind of just doesn't commit to what he's committed to, and that what I mean there is yesterday he kept making this mistake where he'd be really good army, great position to push, and he just wouldn't push, or he'd push very softly and very cautiously. And I want to see him move out kind of right now and get going and sell those bunkers and get across that map. And I don't really think there's any way MaxSed can defend it. But what I'm looking at there, and I'm just kind of analyzing, is, hey, where's the killer instinct at, Coffee? Let's make sure that you are being decisive and confident in your positions. And I think now he is lining it up with combat shields. So this is indeed a very good push. Just looked for a moment with him building up bunkers and adding that third command center that he was going to sit at home. But no. Coffee, he is definitely looking a lot more decisive than yesterday.
Big cancel on that third base, and there is no hope of that thing getting up. And I don't even know if he holds the natural. There is going to be a Colossus at least, and lots of Marines here. So that's a good sign compositionally there for MaxSed, but there are 3 Vikings. Or is it 4? Is that 3?
It's a squad. It's a squad for sure. Now, it's hard to break someone on 2 base with this sort of army. And he did just lose a whole bunch more SCVs. He just lost 5 SCVs to the Phoenix, and medevac goes down. So really nice annoyance here from MaxSed. And I mean, it's pushing up that ramp without tanks, right? You can't really push into Colossus like this. Oh, whoa. MaxSed, he's not looking. MaxSed! Oh my God. I think his Phoenix just all got caught on the map and he wasn't looking.
I think maybe his Hot Pockets are ready. Oven started beeping. It happens.
It does. A bit of a silly mistake. I think he was actually just picking up SCVs in the mineral line. So a lapse there. I think he just thought, oh, there's no way you'll push up here. But his own units just got aggroed a little bit, walked down the ramp, and MaxSed tunnel visioning on his Phoenix. Any chance of him clawing his way back in that game does disappear. It was always going to be a long shot, though, after that early game.
He needs to listen to Darth Piglius, man. Build the invisible man. Do it. Kill him.
If only, if only. Yeah, I mean, it's a little predictable when behind Dark Shrine, but it is effective. I wish I knew what the heck the plan was. You know, the stuff hit the fan a little too quick there, Maynard. I'm wondering, was it just a bit of Void Ray harassment? Was it planning to be a big Void Ray gateway bust? Because they actually have surprising power. Void Rays can smash bunkers so quickly, and they can break down walls and that sort of stuff. So especially if you're doing like a Hellion opening or something like that, it can just be like, oh, whoa, there's a Void Ray in my base, bam, like this is going to do crazy damage.
Well, speaking of crazy damage, this kind of just the nail at the, I guess the first part of the coffin here for MaxSed was that Hellion and Marine attack into the main base where he had nothing but probes against Hellions and Marines. And that was just completely brutal, which led down to this. And this was, you know, an engagement that potentially MaxSed could have won if he was looking at it. And the unfortunate fact for MaxSed is that he was looking at the Phoenixes, like Pig mentioned, probably just picking up SCVs, marking them around. And, you know, you got to look at the right place at the right time in StarCraft. That's why you're flicking around with your hotkeys. And unfortunately, at that point, you know, Coffee peeled apart part of his army, you know, maybe not in hold position, or definitely not in hold position, because he managed to pull half of that army into a battle where they were completely outgunned and outnumbered. So I guess, you know, you don't want to rely, I don't want to focus rather as a caster on MaxSed's mistakes, but just praise Coffee on a well-executed game after the, you know, the initial damage, being able to turn it into a win.
Indeed. Really nice handling there. And I like the urgency with which he focused on the Widow Mines getting across under the Void Ray, took it out, and then instantly turned them into an aggressive force to add even more damage to the other side of the map as well. I guess in hindsight, that did end up costing him a little bit when the second Void Ray and then the third one came on in and did more damage. But I love that a Terran player is calm enough to just kind of deal with some chaos and immediately continue harassing their opponents. So great multitasking from Coffee, ends up finishing it off very cleanly.
Indeed. Well, we're going to take a short break and see if MaxSed can fight back in Game 2. When we come back, we'll see you guys after the break. Much love. G'day, StarCraft fans. Welcome back to the DreamHack Masters Fall Chinese main event. I am Maynard, with me as Pig, and we are in a best of 5 here. Our first best of 5 for the evening between MaxSed and Coffee, with the Terran Coffee currently up 1-0 after their game on Oxide. Now, what are we going to get in Game 2, Pig? Forecast this one for me.
Okay, predictions. I've got my crystal ball out. Let's guess. Coffee's not going to build a Reaper because he hasn't done that in his last 426 Terran vs Protoss maps.
Solid.
And because of that, we're going to see a Nexus before Cybercore, a little bit of a greedier opening from MaxSed. If MaxSed wants to get a little bit cheeky, he might even skip the scout, but that's very unlikely because MaxSed just doesn't feel that comfortable doing that. However, MaxSed is going to say, you know what? I think some invisible men would be fantastic because he never has detection early, and I'm going to do it game 2. I actually don't think he's going to do it. I think MaxSed's going to play 4-gate blink and play a very standard opening here because he already pulled out a cheeky build game 1. It didn't quite go his way. I expect 4-gate blink to kind of control the early stage, and then he's going to go up into 8-gate charge and Colossus behind it. Very delayed upgrades, adding Archons if he can secure his third base mining. But really, there's a good chance Coffee does a heavy 2-base push, and it's all going to be about Stalker, Zealot, and maybe one Colossus trying to defend that.
I was going to say a 4-gate blink against 3 racks. I'm feeling a 3 racks here from Coffee.
Ooh. Well, that's a very good matchup for the 4-gate blink in theory, but that's theory. And it all goes out the window when you talk about the physics and the movement around the map here. So let's see how he handles this situation. In the top left-hand side of the map, representing Invictus Gaming, this is Coffee.
And in the bottom right, his teammate, but today they are enemies. In the red, the Protoss, this is MaxSed.
I think you're absolutely right about 3 racks on this map. If you look at Coffee likes to mix it in, everyone does, but you play Lightshade, and it's very common. I mean, I think it was Time trying a Hellion drop on this map. I believe he did, but it's such a good map in terms of the wide open ramps, third base being kind of spread out. That being said, I would be a little wary of committing too hard to aggression with a 3 racks against MaxSed. So if Coffee does do that, I would like to see him kind of send out an SCV scout to just check, and upon seeing no third base, maybe try to hide bio on the map to kind of ambush the Stalkers. But even that's very dangerous because if you get spotted by the Observer, you can't really like ambush the Stalkers on high ground or anything, and they can just basically harass you all the way home until your 6 remaining red hit point Marines walk home and achieve nothing.
Pig, it's a Reaper.
And it's a core before Nexus as well. I suck.
Oh man, like God. we need to bump up some of those B stream community casters.
Yeah. Sorry.
Take us out behind the shed and just put old Yellow down. Oh my goodness.
Get in here, other casters.
All right.
Well, there's no bunker yet, Maney. Now it doesn't go down just yet, but keep our eyes on it because the early adept coming across crosses Lightshade so fast.
It's not even a 3 racks.
Well, what, Maynard?
Did anything we say is right? There might still be a 4-gate.
Dude, we made the predictions, but then both the players said, actually, he knows that's what I would do. So because they've just gone one layer up the mind games, they've both done, different things to not be predictable. So it's actually, we knew what they should do, but the only reason we got it wrong is because they're purposely doing the thing that they shouldn't do just to surprise their opponent, all right?
Yeah. So like we know what to expect because obviously we do our homework and we're really professional. And they're like, well, if the commentators know that, then obviously the other guy knows that, and I'm going to play against that. I see it.
Exactly. That's exactly it, Maney.
Exactly.
Well, it's going to be a Hellion on the way for Coffee. All right. And so I think Coffee's going to do the 3 Hellion run by with the 8 Marine drop. So that's very cool. We saw this... Ooh, did Time do this? I think Time might have done this in one of his games yesterday, or the day before. All the games blend into one, but I was very excited because this is my favorite opening. Just the Reaper there into the kind of Hellions, but there is a tech lab on the way now, so maybe just 1 Hellion for a little bit of extra scouting. Meanwhile, Reaper's going to come on in. Will it get to see much? Sees a gateway, sees a robo. That already tells you pretty much everything that you need to know. Comes on in and sees the Chrono and the Twilight as well. So it's going to be a 2-gate blink robo. There could be 2 more gateways go down now, but it's very likely that MaxSed just drops a third base about 4 minutes 20, so he's going to keep his eyes out.
An extra few gateways go down here for MaxSed as he rounds out that extra bit of production. So he's going to go up to 4 gateways with the Robo here before taking a third Nexus. He's actually spreading out the probes for, you know, the edge of the map, looking for, obviously, medevacs, liberators, whatever, what have you. And the Hellion is darting around trying to confirm the third Nexus, or lack thereof. And he'll do that momentarily here.
I really like the passivity of Coffee's opening when I think about it. MaxSed's been so reliably going 4-gate blink. This has been maybe 70% of his games in the last week. Because of this, yeah, overcommitting with aggression into this, it seems like a bad idea because it opens you up to his counterattack. And I was kind of saying yesterday, like, hey, why not just defend? Just make tanks and defend, or do this opening with the quick Raven and then get the barracks going stim shields really early. And whether you do it with... Ooh.
He's getting a bunker in the main already.
Oh, right. Very nice. Oh, okay, awesome. And you know what? MaxSed hasn't even moved out to get the third, and that SCV sitting there, that's really important scouting for Coffee. I mean, MaxSed likes to keep his stalkers here hidden so that you come in with your pressure, and then he just comes out of the fog, blinks on you, and you don't even have a chance to react. Hellion drives in, sees a ton of stalkers. He's got a second tank about to pop. Coffee is locked down tight. But what's really interesting here is, and obviously if oh, that's a very nice snipe, gets an observer. I actually think that's good for MaxSed. Anything that disincentivizes MaxSed from attacking is good for him. Honestly, like, Coffee is over-prepared for this. If MaxSed doesn't take a third pretty soon, he's in big trouble. But the thing is, if he keeps his stalkers alive and doesn't overcommit, oh my lord.
Good blinks on those stalkers, but yeah, that is a tough nut to crack right here. I hope for MaxSed's sake that he doesn't put too many more resources into this attack, because it's not going to pay off for him. There we go, Templar Archives going down for MaxSed. No third Nexus just yet, but he has the money for it, so I think he's about to take it. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I wonder if he goes for I don't think he can afford to go Storm, so I doubt he does that. If you know your opponent's 2 base all in and committing really hard to a push, which, surprise, surprise, Coffee does almost all the time. That's one thing that he's very, very predictable on. Not always, but quite commonly. Then definitely something you keep your eyes open for. Now, the Stalker drop, this is something that MaxSed does almost every game. Oh, gotta watch out for that interference matrix.
He did this all the time against XY in their series as well. Charge coming up next here. Another 4 gateways as well. Going to go up to 8 gateways here on the 3 Nexus infrastructure that he's got set up for himself. Starting probing again as well. He actually cut probes for a little while there in the mid-40s.
Dude, the Storm coming in really quick. It's so good for stopping these 2 base pushes. Like, if Coffee gets really simple and just pushes the front, tank bio, moves out, you drop Storms on him, you charge, let Stalkers come in, easiest win of your life. But that's why I love that Coffee's mixing it up. Double drop goes down the south. Raven is going to go with it to make sure it doesn't get spotted by an observer. Now, it will have to fly over a pylon to get in that main base, which is the one problem here for Coffee. So MaxSed will have warning. He's quick enough on the recall if he's got the energy. Oh, he tries to steer around, but the probe is there. MaxSed! Great vision from MaxSed. And, oh, recall. Okay, he groups up his units, but... And High Templar moving up here into the main as well. You've got to be careful here as Coffee. Feedback.
Feedback there on the Raven. And that means the High Templar have been shown. Storm's going to finish in a second here. There it is. And yeah, I mean, the drop is being deflected, so good defense from MaxSed so far. Coffee moving out with the rest of his forces, though. He's got a lot more coming in from the natural. His defensive army and the tanks coming across the map now.
I love this push angle. He's going to go for the natural. There's so much production there rather than overcommitting to the third, which is a much easier to flank location. That being said, he also realizes, hey, I don't actually have that much bio supporting these tanks yet. He's got a ton of chargelets. He's got Storm. He scans the third, and he sees that MaxSed's third, while it's, it's got a handful of probes, that's not even a full mineral line. So he knows that, hey, I've got my third command center finished. I'm meant to be down a little bit on probes because of the way Terran vs. Protoss works with mules. This is acceptable. The tanks go back to an incredibly safe location there behind the walls. Oh, Coffee. So this is great. I really love that Coffee is just slowing things down. I want to see him add more upgrades and really continue to just get to the next step. Since he's going Widow Mines, I'd like to see him squeeze some drops out as well. But for now, it's just about defending a big Storm drop, Stalker, Zealot attack. And of course, MaxSed, he's looking for that. He wants that third to float down. He wants those SCVs, that bio to come out into the open and clump up for that Storm.
Well, we do see the third about to be taken right now. It's a bit of an anti-timing there for Coffee on that third base. He's going to lose some workers for sure if he doesn't get everything in position. Oh, there's that Storm drop attempt, but MaxSed thinks twice after taking too much turret damage.
The Armory is going to be finishing up. Ghost Academy's on the way. Now, with the Storm Drop specifically, you actually need to have a Viking or two. 2 Vikings will stop the Storm Drop because they shoot it down very quickly. But if you don't have any Vikings, you kind of can't really deal with it in the open ground. Of course, if you're sitting in a nice defensive stance like Coffee is, it is all right. But Coffee's SCV production has been very slow this game. He's only at 51, so he kind of, you can tell that he likes to commit to these pushes a lot more. He really does like to hit with the aggressive plays. And now that MaxSed has kind of scared him off of that plan, look at how smoothly MaxSed's gone to the next step. Okay, doesn't have double forge. His upgrades are kind of slow, but double Robo plus Robo Bay. He's already got Sign Storm. He's already got plenty of gateway production going up to 10 gates. He's going to take a 4th base behind this. He's got a great economy. He's got good map control. His vision is fantastic. To me, this feels like MaxSed has kind of scared Coffee away from any sharp, direct pushes. And now MaxSed gets to really just say, hey, I control the map. Come out and play with me, mate.
And if he was paying attention to that Zealot there, he was actually envisioning the drop to the bottom left of the map here. That does mean that Coffee's fighting army here is actually not that powerful. Oh, Storm on the bio there. The second one whiffs a little bit. And most importantly, he keeps those High Templar alive and puts them first class into the Warp Prism. They're going to travel in style.
Oh, he's trying to come on down. The Zealot does see this triple drop heading towards his main base. MaxSed better spot that one. Does warp in some Stalkers and Zealots, and he's got a Storm waiting for it, actually. So that's always very nasty, trying to go through Storm. But Coffee eats it with just a few of his units. He unloads a lot more where that came from. There is a cannon and another Psy Storm in there.
Oh, that was a good storm there from that last Hard Templar. And Colossus coming in from downtown to assist. There are some Marauders alive here, so that Colossus is going to be a little bit over an overzealous usage there. The Archon actually softened up those units quite a bit as those High Templar joined in holy matrimony. Oh, there goes the EMP! And a hit on the Prism as well. It goes down with the High Templar in tow.
Oh, the Colossus goes down as well in the main base. There's a ton of Zealots that need to be backstabbing right now, but MaxSed's so busy defending this with all the spellcasters. He hasn't sent them in just yet, but he does manage to defend the top and the bottom attack. And remember, he did this off a superior economy. His 4th base is untouched. The Colossus transition fully underway. Extended Thermal Lance does kick in. The only thing really missing for MaxSed here is like Dark Templar and a second Forge, really. Those are the 2 things that he needs to add to the next step. He adds the second Forge. He's already got a fantastic army, and I don't think Coffee's army is really built to beat this army. In a head-on fight, Colossus can shoot, pull back, shoot, pull back. You've got the shorter ranged army, but Coffee, catching MaxSed a bit out of position, might be able to snipe this 4th.
If he can get this Nexus, he'll start to claw his way back into the game. So I do feel like Coffee's on the back foot at the moment. Drops an EMP on a few of the static defense structures and the Nexus itself to try and soften it up for the pickoff, but he doesn't quite get it. MaxSed rotates, defends, and there's that Zealot counterattack, the backstab. Not much bio here. The Zealots can potentially pick off the tank. They go for the SCVs. The splash damage of the tank actually helping the Zealots out a little bit as Coffee loses 5 workers. And he's already been pretty lax on the worker count at the moment, so he goes for a Doom drop in the main of the Protoss. A desperation maneuver here from the Terran to put some serious hurt on the Protoss. Jumps in the High Templar. MaxSed a little bit late on those storms.
Indeed, the Colossus are going to come up very awkwardly as well. Careful, Colossus. This ledge is a very dangerous area for those Colossus to walk up, but the reinforcers coming in from behind it. I think they should be okay. And forced to pick up and leave. Stalkers will take down 1 medevac with 2 Marauders inside it. More Zealots coming in on the front for MaxSed, who has maintained a 74 probe 4 base economy. His economy has not really been touched. Coffee's trying to find openings, but he is failing so far. And despite his upgrade advantage, his Vikings are only now coming out, and Coffee's economy doesn't look too fantastic. So I feel like Coffee still is absolutely in this with a chance to win. He's got Ghosts, he's got the Viking count starting to grow, which will deal with the Colossi. It just feels like MaxSed's half a step ahead, in that MaxSed has a bit more money to work with, and he's got both DT tech coming in, which is going to be really a great harassment tool, fantastic, but also disruptors. And there's no real answer to the disruptors directly for Coffee. He just needs to have fantastic micro, and the bigger these fights get, the harder that is. Yeah,
certainly. I mean, it does. The problem is, you normally only see 3 Colossi and then a switch and disruptor from Protoss, but 4 Colossi, as a Terran, you really want to just keep making Vikings here. You're like, damn, that's a lot. That is a hard army to fight into and A-move into. That is so tough to actually win a fight against that, but you know, the Viking count, like you're right, Pig.
Oh, no, Maynard, look at the main, look at the main. There's so many Stalkers there. Oh, no! Oh,
Coffee.
Psy Storms as well. This is so crazy. The Vikings are just not even attacking right now.
Oh, no, this is suicide. He's lost everything here. Yeah, he's killing some gateway units, but this was so many resources from Coffee. Oh my god, MaxSed just completely erased that attack. And even the Vikings showing up a little bit late to the party here. They just sort of roll on in going, hey guys, I'm a jet plane. And they get gunned down by the Stalkers there. That move from Coffee shot himself in the foot. And you know, this is Coffee's, I guess when the weakness of Coffee is he just wants to get something done. He finds it really hard to be patient for very long. He cannot really sit there and wait and just max out and defend like some other Terrans can. Definitely like time. But, you know, he's a little bit more, I guess a little bit more like Dream, but even more ham. Just always wants to Doom drop the Protoss.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that MaxSed had already defended so well up to that point, so I understand the desperation growing, but the vision for MaxSed, he has had spotting units for this sort of move so many times. His vision has been fantastic. I mean, MaxSed once again showing an understanding for who he's up against. He said, look, this guy loves to Doom drop, he loves to harass and come in from surprising angles, and he's always had so much vision to see and anticipate. He's given himself so much time to prepare and respond, and now it's bowling time. MaxSed, a big fan, of course, of going for those strikes on the Terran player. The 4th command center goes down to the DTs at the same time in the bottom left side. The DTs simply run in, blink in, kill it, run away, and Coffee, he is, of course, on his last legs.
Absolutely. Yeah, this Coffee is starting to get cold, and does not bode well for him. The 4th base being picked off is basically put him on a ticking time clock here. He doesn't have a whole lot of mining at the moment. He's getting mined out of his main. His natural is also just seconds away from being mined out here. He's going to go for nukes. You know what? My man, when behind as a Terran, this is the only way that I see Coffee winning this game, is that he gets a nuke on the army of MaxSed somehow.
Well, you can't go down to defend that. Those SCVs are trapped. The Disruptors, of course, can completely zone that ramp. The Stalkers could have actually jumped there on top of the Liberators as Coffee came forward to defend. He's going to try and click the Disruptors. Some great focus fire so far, but then the Disruptors do land. And that is Youchies. Very nice cleanup there from MaxSed. A brave move from Coffee, who looked like he wanted to make his way towards ranged Liberators at the end of that game. But of course, after all of those drops and attacks were held so excellently, MaxSed does tie up the series.
There it is, 1 apiece here. We got ourselves a series, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a best of 3 from here on out as 2 maps have already been played. Yeah, that game 2 was a lot different in the sense that the Protoss kind of just really started to run away with it. It was all Terran in game number 1. He really ran away with it, but it was, again, based off of early game damage. Seems like all the games when Coffee wins, it's usually because he's gotten a really good early game. I've not seen Coffee have like a bad early game and then recover into a win yet. Yeah,
it's really interesting to see kind of how MaxSed just controlled this game, and I think that vision in the bottom side of the map, like, he just seemed so clued into the fact that Coffee was going to try these tactics. I mean, this was kind of funny because this was such a big drop that it took him so long to handle it. I think if the Colossus hung around there, he might have done okay, but this was the one that was just a drop too far, Maynard. One too far. The Vikings did actually end up killing a Colossus there, funnily enough, after move commanding for a bit, but shield battery overcharge, Zealot Stalkers, really well done. I think what I find, you know, kind of fascinating about this game is just how well MaxSed was able to control the transition, because off of that, I got a ton of Stalkers, you know, I'm outside your base. It can be a little scary going up against a Terran who's planning for that sort of push. But I love that the moment he was like, look, I'm not busting in here. I see you've got like 2 bunkers, 3 tanks, turtled up, immediate Psystorm, 3rd base at the same time. Like, that is a super rush to Psystorm, but it's such a game changer against those 2 base Terran pushes. So that creates a big problem for Coffee here, where he's going to go, oh man, I don't know if I can rely on these 2 base pushes that are my specialty. And I was saying this all day yesterday with Time versus MaxSed, looking at the way MaxSed's playing every series, 3cc with the same sort of bunker tank setup to defend the 4-gate blink, but a fast 3rd command center into a 3-base bio tank push. I cannot see MaxSed having enough raw material to keep up with that. And I think that might actually be the strategy which Coffee starts making his way towards as we work our way through this map pool in this series, simply because it is a glaring weak spot in what MaxSed's been doing all of yesterday and so far today.
Yeah, I mean, You've mentioned that in the last series, especially the series against Time yesterday, MaxSed was playing the player rather than the matchup. And I feel like Coffee needs to take a page out of that book, you know, especially when you're getting into deep into the tournament, when you're in the best of fives and best of sevens, you got to be playing the player, man. You're going to be doing your research on who you're up against and going for stuff that they are going to be weak against. Doing your same old may get you pretty far, but it may not get you all the way to the end. In the top right here from Invictus Gaming, winning game 2. This, the Red Protoss, is MaxSed.
And in the bottom left-hand side, the Terran player, also, of course, playing for Invictus Gaming. He is looking much better than yesterday. It is Coffee.
He's already won one more map than he did all day yesterday. So definitely looking better. Objective truth.
The fact that he made a nuke and was going towards range libs towards the end of that, I'm like, oh, because he was like, just rebuild the fourth, try to do all this super late game stuff. That's exciting. To me, it looked like even in this kind of desperate position, he's like, well, all right, we're going to go to late game and see if I can get there. And obviously he couldn't, but that's a very powerful style. Liberators are so good. Of course, it's hard to get a player like MaxSed, who's a very slippery Protoss, to fight into your Liberator zones, because he's just going to constantly be running around looking for where your Liberators aren't sieged and kind of backstabbing you and that sort of stuff. But it at least gives you the ability to really zone out the Colossi, the Disruptors, to create pushes in areas which you can't really deal with. Not to mention, Range Liberator Harass is just a very fantastic kind of low APM way of forcing a bit of a response from the Protoss. You know, having a cannon and a battery in the middle of a mineral line or a High Templar at a base does not defend a Liberator the way it can defend, say, 8 Marines in a medevac.
It's an interesting thing we've been seeing out of this region is the... actually happened in Taiwan as well, the battle for gas blocking.
You know,
yeah. Both players just hold positioning their workers right on the gases and going, you move, no, you move, no, you move. So now I know you want it. Now I know that you know that I know that I want it.
More players need to do this back to Protoss players. There is normally the Protoss players who are occupying the mineral patch. They're being annoying. They're blocking the gas. They're blocking the expansion. It's about time the Terrans tried to give them back some of their own.
Right.
I like seeing it. I really do like it. And, ooh, great point from our observer. This is the pull-off gas build. I was like, my lord, that's some quick 3 barracks. Was this reactor first, or was it just the marine into reactor? Yeah, okay, so marine into reactor.
Yeah.
And a safety bunker as well, which is kind of cool, because if you're just relying on the marine count, like, you're actually totally safe versus this adept. But if you show that, and your marines are kind of really aggressively shoving it back, a lot of the time the Protoss goes, oh, okay, you're 3-raxing. Whereas if you build the bunker, it kind of speaks to a little bit more of you playing the factory opening. So the Marines, like, they poke out a little, but then they're just going to, like, hop in the bunker and chill. And he's going to hide the barracks really far back. This is fantastic for Coffee. And it's a big, long map, so it's not one where the 3X gets across there too quickly. But I think he's going to be very happy when he realizes he's actually up against a Phoenix build, which is probably the ideal circumstance for the 3Racks.
Sorry about the microphone there. A spider literally just dropped onto my microphone and I had to put it on the ground. It's hashtag Australia, guys.
Yep.
So
I love that that's not even a meme.
no, it's just it's fine. It's like it's a day ending with Y. We just have to deal with the spider a little bit. It's fine. He's just on the ground now, chilling. So yes, Phoenix build up here against the 3-racks. I, as a Terran, super happy to see a Stargate build usually when I'm going for 3-racks, but it does mean that as a Protoss, it's very hard to be denied scouting information. So you can come in here, and you are going to see that second and third barracks, which were hidden away behind that mineral line. MaxSed knows what he's up against. Unfortunately, using the Diva announcer pack, a big -1 to MaxSed's respect right there. But we are going to continue to cast.
I feel like almost every time we've gone first person in like Taiwan and here as well in China now, it's been Diva, and I love it, man. I think it strengthens you. Listening to the nails on a chalkboard, it makes your ears almost as tough as those 300 APM fingers.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a few people out there that like to have cold showers. Like it's an objectively bad time, especially in winter. But you do it anyway because it's like a challenge for your body. It wakes you up. It burns like that brown fat that's hard to get rid of. Like that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like the Diva announce pad. It burns your StarCraft 2 brown fat.
My dad always gets that one.
Oh, it hurts. Oh, God. So, yeah, the Terran moving out with that big push on the right side. Big Ball of Bio there, going to hit with Stim, Combat Shield. I think does he have +1? He has got turrets up. He doesn't have +1 just yet, so they've got the stim and the combat shield, though. Phoenix is doing some damage here. Nice bit of damage from MaxSed.
About to hit, though. It does you risk going between the gateways, because that is very scary. 3 Zealots warping in. There's an Immortal, a battery. Nah, ain't no chance of that.
Yeah. So this is just one of those, like, you just walk past and go, nice. Looks nice on this side of the map. I think I'll go home now.
Yeah. Hope to catch the Phoenix on the way home. That's the dream, as those Phoenix fly over you, and you just stim, pick off all of those. Now, this is a quick robo, a quick foregas. So I really love that Max said there's 2 things that I love. He sent the first Phoenix across the map immediately to check what he was up against, and he already had a really quick robo on the way. Now, he's actually building another Immortal before Colossus, which is kind of wild to me, but it is going to give a lot of tankiness to his army. And Marauder slaying as well. Great Marauder killing power.
Still great harassment damage here with these Phoenixes. Surprised to see this turret position where it is. I mean, it's a bit more effective against DTs there, but...
Yeah, I think he built it maybe before he knew it was Phoenix, right? So it's like it was probably meant for that. But I don't know. The Phoenix came over pretty early, so you're absolutely right. A bit of an odd choice. That's a lot of unupgraded gateway units, Maynard. I think he's going to love it when his charge upgrade does kick in. Of course, MaxSed's camping on 2 base for an awful long time now, so he does have to get a move on, moving out to his 3rd at some point in the next minute.
Oh, that's a lot of bio. I mean, he does have this chill battery to overcharge, right? And he has a lot of Zealots, but that's a lot of bio, man. It's a bit of DPS that Colossus. Yeah, Colossus should be fine to hold this then. Lots of Marines in this army comp, so the Colossus should do great.
Yeah, and those Immortals are very tanky. So this is a good defense by MaxSed. Now, he's got to get the 3rd. He's already got upgrades on the way and kind of work his way towards the Twilight Council to round out his army. Extra barracks on the way, so up to 5 barracks before 3rd Command Center for Coffee. Now this is okay. Same time. I was like, that seems kind of wild. That's like such a commitment. So his 3rd Command Center is really late at 7 minutes. That being said, MaxSed's base is delayed, but with all this SCV damage going in, it feels like MaxSed has taken the pressure off himself to expand. He's like, well, as long as I just keep killing stuff with my Phoenix for free, I'm happy to chill in this scenario. Like, I don't really need to overcommit to anything because I'm getting kills. You just aren't. You haven't really killed any of my stuff. A drop comes in while an attack's rallying into the 3rd. Ooh, okay, maybe not.
Okay, that's a nice structure to pick off. It'll deny extended thermal lance if he gets it. There we go. Nice pick off. He is going to lose all this, though, to the Phoenixes. Not a whole lot he can do about that.
3rd base goes down, though. 3rd base is going down at the same time. That is really well done. Coffee, of course, low on medevacs. Does he get enough Marines out to kill some of these Phoenix? Oh, it looks like no. The Phoenix are going to clean up most of them. 1 Phoenix goes down as they are out of energy. At the end of that great army versus army trade for MaxSed, though. And remember, there was already a big problem in this game. MaxSed is like, I have Phoenix, I have Colossus. You have no answer to this army. And Coffee, I mean, he still doesn't have an answer to that army. He's just thrown a lot of army away to do a bit of economic damage. 10 Marauder, 17 Marines. I don't know how he defends this push from MaxSed.
Yeah, no tanks, no Liberators. I mean, if he had like maybe 15 more Marauders, I'd be like, yeah, sure, he could hold this, but he does look a little bit light in the forces. Catches the Phoenixes, but again, like this ball of units, even without the Phoenixes, feels really hard to kill as a Terran with what you got right here.
Yeah, I mean, no Twilight, no charge. So it is mostly Phoenix Colossus unupgraded. So like it's one of those things where it's like, well, you could surround this army, right? And just come in with like a giant arc of bio. It's just that I don't know if the numbers are there. Being down 20 army supply in this matchup is a bit of a disaster, and it seems like MaxSed here just stacking up so much damage with this Phoenix all game. And Coffee going to go for a desperate backstab, and maybe should have gone for this earlier, realizing that his army was so far behind to buy time. But because he's doing it only once this army's over here, it's a bit too late. Those force fields are savage.
Force fields shutting out a bunch of the units on the outside there and confirming the dead bunker. And Coffee just dive here with the bio, going for the infrastructure of the Protoss' main base. MaxSed reacting quickly, though, pulling probes over to the 3rd of relative safety. This CC burns down, and he is actually... He's actually got a bunch of units just rallying into the mineral line here, but what production is there? It's 3 Marauders, it's 2 Marines. That is not going to be enough to hold the main base here against the Protoss army, which is just way bigger and way more powerful than the Terran.
This was really well done by MaxSed. I mean, I think we're starting to see a pattern emerge, Maynard. MaxSed is locking himself down defensively, and he's waiting for Coffee to overextend, and Coffee is obliging. We've talked about how Coffee likes to push, he likes to attack, he likes to do really committed 2-base attacks, and even in games like this where there really was no opening at all, he still goes for that drop just when MaxSed's third's getting established. And it like, yeah, okay, seems like he's doing damage, but dude, dropping into like 6 Phoenix, it's so dangerous. And we saw why he lost so many of his units for that trade. He had no answer to the Colossi. He needed to be getting a hurry on with that starport transition back at home, and MaxSed just punishes him with a very decisive push.
I love that he's floating structures against a guy with a giant ball of Phoenixes, by the way. I mean, it's not a giant ball of Phoenixes. I guess it does take a while for them to kill structures, but, you know.
So, I don't know, are those John Wick Marines, Maynard? That is the question.
I think if you got, like, 6 John Wicks, 10 John McClanes, and at least 15 Rambos, you could probably take that army.
Yeah, one of those Marauders might be a Rambo. Maybe. I don't know even then if that's going to be enough.
See, those 3 Marauders all need to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson. All 3 of them. You need 3 The Rocks. And yeah, all those Marines need to be 80s action movie stars. And unfortunately, oh man, even Jason Statham, like I just don't see how any action star saves the Terran here. The army's just too powerful. GG. MaxSed taking game 3.
Very nicely done by MaxSed. Once again, this time going for the Phoenix build, so showing a lot of variety in his play, staying entirely unpredictable is MaxSed at this point. And that's cool. That's cool. He changed it up a lot that time, the Phoenix Colossus play. He scouted incredibly early. And this puts Coffee, of course, in the compromised position of being 1 map from being out of the entire tournament. That is always a nasty one to be in. It is a point where no more mistakes can be made.
Yeah, a match point here for the Protoss. And man, it's you can really see that Coffee starts to fall apart when things go wrong a little bit for him here, especially in the early mid game. I liked the maneuver from Coffee to go for the critical structure and to also pick off the third at the same time. But part of this is just a TVP thing, is that it's very normal for the Terran to be up in army supply because they kind of have to be. Like if you're down the amount of supply you're normally up in army against Protoss, their army is way stronger than yours. That's what that means. Way more powerful, way stronger, and even without charge, like having these Colossi here with the force fields, with the unupgraded Stalkers in the ball, is enough to win a lot of fights against small contingents of fire. You know, you don't have tanks to worry about. You haven't got Liberators to worry about. Those are the things that an army like this worries about, and they just did not exist for Coffee. He was so bio-mine focused.
Yeah, this is something where it can go very well. I think if you, as a Terran player with that sort of army, don't engage the way they want to, right? Biomine can kind of beat everything if you avoid front-on collisions with the Colossi, and if you kind of wait for the right moment. Split pushing is a very common thing, but with the sort of 3-rack style, you've just got to be a little bit careful about overcommitting. And in general, against someone who builds more than, say, 3 or 4 Phoenix, you've got to be careful. So I'm not sure. Maybe Coffee thought there was only 3 or 4 Phoenix, when in fact the Phoenix production continued for MaxSed, which is what made it so impossible for that sort of multi-prong play to really pay off. If Coffee just kind of, you know, bided his time a little bit, worked his way towards the double starport Viking, which is what he was going for behind that, there's a point when you've got, like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 Vikings out, a lot of bio with 1-1 upgrades. Suddenly the fight can look really good for you. Because remember, MaxSed wasn't really getting into the Twilight very quickly at all. It was mostly Colossus, Immortals, Phoenix, and a couple of units just to kind of tank and absorb damage on the ground. So there was a very strong point with that army, and it ended up being so powerful specifically because Coffee sacrificed so much of his army.
Well, he's only got 1 more shot, and hopefully he learns from this series. Otherwise, he's going to be out. I'll have to try again next season with MaxSed on match point. We're going to take a short break. When we return, potentially the last game of the series. Let's find out together. We'll see you after the break. G'day, StarCraft fans. Welcome back to the DreamHack Masters Full main event here for China. I'm Maynard. With me is Pig. And we have currently got ourselves a best of 5 with MaxSed finding himself a match point. Currently 2-1 up on Coffee, the Terran player. Is MaxSed just going to take game 4 and we call it a day for this best of 5 and see you later next season, Coffee? Or are we going to game 5, Pig? Make promises to us now.
Coffee is good at StarCraft, Maynard. He may not have had things work out for him there, but he has many more builds up his sleeve. He's looking a bit more decisive today. His drops have not quite worked out, though, and that is the kind of odd thing, because MaxSed is putting him in a hard position where if he wants to play his style, he's going to need to patiently threaten, clear up map vision, pull back, and then commit to the drops a bit later. And that's a bummer. That's so much more awkward as a Terran to get deep in the Protoss' territory and not commit to pushes. Without that sort of last game, it's just, there's so many spotting units out there. MaxSed, his map control, his vision is on point. This man down here has to find a way to surprise an opponent who is scouting so well. What can he do? In the bottom left-hand side, representing Invictus Gaming, the blue Terran, this is Coffee.
It's all on the line for him. One more life remaining. Show me what you got. And in the top right in the red, his teammate on match point. Looking good in this series. Just needs to close it out. One more here for this fine gentleman. It is MaxSed.
This is MaxSed's map pick, so I think it's going to be a real hard ask for Coffee to get swifty with it here. But there is always a chance. I think he does have a lot of build orders, and when you've got to win 2 in a row, you have to take some risks. He can't play too careful, too safe. I've talked a bit about how I would love to see a 3cc opening against MaxSed, because he does commit very hard to 2 base. It's rare we see MaxSed go for an old 2-gate robo, into the 3rd base. Those 2-gate blink robo into the 3rd bases, that's the reason why Terran is so 3-base heavy. Sorry, 2-base heavy at the moment. Terrans were like, man, if I just take a 3rd and stuff, they just get way too far ahead. I've got to have these sharp timings. I've got to have these these aggressive options available to me. But it's not quite finding the mark in this series, because MaxSed is doubling down on his early defense. Now he's going to go core before Nexus for the early defense. We're going to see a Reaper yet again from Coffee. I love it. Staying unpredictable, showing that he does have a lot of depth and breadth as a player, but is going to be blocking the gas for just a moment there in the main base as well. And MaxSed, of course, probing on up. The SCV Scout, the Probe Scout, both backing off to their sides of the map for now. And the Probe looks like it's going to check for starport proxies, maybe. Potentially setting up for his own proxy. We still have not really seen any DTs at all, Maynard.
No. I mean, apart from that game on Lightshade, obviously that was late game.
It was the last unit to his composition, right? We're only seeing it as the last thing added in, which is fascinating, because I really think Time is a lot more solid against DTs than Coffee. Time will save mules and stuff if he gets wind of anything, and Coffee is so good at dropping his mules that he's bad against DTs because he's too good at macroing his mules. He's very rarely getting an eBay early. That being said, that is a quick second barracks. And you know what? That makes me think about the Coffee Special. What is the Coffee Special? The Coffee Special is where you get 3 barracks. You skip your starport entirely. You skip your gases on your natural. Skip your engineering bay. And you just get a ton of Stim, Marauder, Marine tank. And you build some bunkers while pushing incredibly hard. It's a very scary push. It doesn't necessarily mean he's doing that, as we've only seen 2 barracks so far. But yeah, the 3rd barracks has gone down as well. So looks like Coffee is setting up for that push. It is a powerful, large number of units that comes across the map. MaxSed going for a Phoenix opening, which against this build, I don't think does too well. The Cyclone is initially just going to help defend the Phoenix, and then it's just tanks from there, non-stop Marines. So MaxSed is going to have a very hard time defending this if he can't get in and scout. But if that Phoenix can spot all 3 barracks very early, gets in there before the Cyclone's out, he might be able to get wind of this, and then he can adapt accordingly.
Yeah. Cyclone about to pop on out here. Of course, Stim starting up on that barracks with the tech lab. Phoenix sees the 2nd barracks.
Did he see the 3rd, though?
No.
Okay, he sees 2, which already gives you a good idea of what you're up against. Not seeing the 3rd, though, is a very vital piece of missing information. I guess you could argue, hey, there's no starport. You kind of know there's got to be that. Robo's already on the way, getting extra gateways. So I think in this scenario, you probably still want to get an Immortal or 2, because otherwise you've got nothing to kill the siege tanks. but you want to get a Colossus out very quickly. So I would say 1 Immortal straight into Colossi. Notice there's a very quick 3rd gas going down for MaxSed, and I expect a 4th gas and him to stay very 2-base heavy here for a little while.
I'm with you on that one. Seems like a pretty conservative opening for both players here. MaxSed found a lot of damage with these Phoenixes in game 2. And he's looking for that in game 3 here. Or rather game 4. And game 3 is what I meant, not game 2. Just add a game to everything I just said, guys. We'll all work together, and this will become a good broadcast if we all just work together. All right.
Even if it's the which map it is in the series, that still counts as maths in my opinion. And the rule is, Maynard, don't do that on
That's
stream.
right.
You know.
Never maths. Never maths.
Never,
I like the
never,
Robo Bay and the Forge here. So yeah, MaxSed just playing really careful, very Phoenix into just regular ground pound, but also going into if you don't have a Colossus here, the bio attack is pretty horrifying.
Now, there is an engineering bay on the way now, and I expect the starport to go down in a moment as well, as he's dropped that 3rd gas now. But there we go. You see the SCVs already. He's pulling, he's going. This is that push they talked about. Tanks, Marines for days. Stim and Shields is here. Remember, they don't have +1. And not only that, there are no medevacs. Every Stim is hit points you cannot get back. This is an incredibly committed push, but that's why it's hitting so fast. With a 3rd base on the way, no battery on the natural? MaxSed? No shield battery on the natural? Are you mad? I don't think he's got enough units to beat that many Marines. The Cyclone, though, a little bit far ahead. The Marines are going to stim forward. The tanks are going to try and siege up.
Oh, my God.
Marines do take a little bit of splash damage, but MaxSed, being this far out from his base, this is absolute madness.
It is madness. I guess without shield batteries, you might as well fight out there because you don't have, the shield batteries juicing up your units back to high health. But we got the bunker push just advancing into the natural here, even building a turret on those bunkers. Circumnavigating the Phoenixes a little bit, or taking a little bit of the the efficacy away from them there. And this is very nasty. He needed a Colossus yesterday, but the Disruptor just starts now.
His Phoenix need to intercept the reinforce. Like, he cannot be letting units just walk across to reinforce this. He finally goes over. Wait, only 2 Phoenix? His army's looking like it wants to go around on the ground, but that means the Marines can stim into his natural and potentially kill him. Of course, those siege tanks exposed to the Immortal flank from the rear, and there's not that much firepower left. The Marines are going to go in and start doing economic damage, but Disruptor from the front, army from the back, tanks exposed, Maynard.
Tanks are exposed indeed, but a lot of hit points being taken off those Protoss units. There is nothing left in the army for MaxSed, and Coffee takes it to game 5. His decisiveness, man, it's his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. And in game 4, it was definitely part of the reason why he won. Was just like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy a ring for this. We're committing. Let's go. And I mean, just imagine there's a Colossus there. Imagine there's a shield battery.
Yeah.
How different that looks to MaxSed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with that sort of push especially, if you can get a Colossus out to intercept that army before it gets close and sieges up, as long as you focus fire that Colossus on the Marines, your Immortal focus fires the tanks, it's a bit of a disaster for them, especially if the Phoenix come in with it and pick up the tanks, right? Imagine if you've got a Colossus there just shooting those Marines. Like, it is absolutely crushed and held. No shield battery, though. Building a 3rd base, building batteries at the 3rd. MaxSed saw this move out. He spotted the 2nd barracks, not the 3rd early on, and somehow it feels like he just misread this a little bit and thought he could defend it with 2 Immortals. But you need something to kill the Marines as well. And, I mean, it's a very quick push. It hits very hard and fast, but MaxSed there not quite handling that as well as he needed to. And, you know, if the Phoenix don't sacrifice any of themselves, you keep them all alive, you can cut off the rally so well and do the buying time and even let the bunkers get up and play it very slow. But without a Colossus on the way, with nothing but unupgraded gateway units coming on, there was a lot of urgency for MaxSed there. And you could tell that he kind of misjudged the strength of that push, didn't realize there was SCVs coming with it. And as a result, dude, we get a game 5.
That's right. Definitely a misread, which is interesting because I always figured that, like, I know that there's weaknesses in a Stargate build, especially if you're going straight into Phoenixes against Terran. I feel like you're open a little bit to things like the 3 racks and that sort of thing, or even a 2 racks timing attack, something with a stim. Timing attack or +1 is very, very dangerous to you if you open Phoenixes, but the Phoenixes give you pretty much ultimate information on what the Terran is doing. Generally, they're quite active, and they're usually in the Terran's face, and definitely usually in the Terran's mineral lines. It's surprising to me that they didn't give him early wind of an attack like that kicking in. Like, even without the SCVs, I feel like you scout multiple barracks, you respect it. You know, you go to Colossus, you get up that shield battery, slow down the 3rd a little bit, but But, you know, definitely go on to Colossus and something a bit more convincing against a bowl of Marines specifically, which was, you know, obviously hindsight 2020. We all sound like geniuses after the fact, right? But in the game, it felt like MaxSed didn't quite use his tools to the greatest effect there.
Well, I think he's going to be kicking himself as well. This is not just us being very critical. Absolutely, he's going, oh man, I even saw the move out and I let that one go by. But that's okay. I have put myself in a great position. I have played it so well. My scouting has been on point. Can I continue it? In the top left-hand side, this red Protoss player for Invictus Gaming is MaxSed.
In the bottom right, playing the Terran pieces. One more map here. If he wins 2 in a row, he can reverse and get into the next stage. The top 3 of the tournament confirmed. This is Coffee.
Coffee tried that same build yesterday against Cyan, and it was super uninspired. He hesitated on the move out with it against Cyan. On 2000 Atmospheres, he did it. And then he finally went to the third. Cyan had literally 0 units, was completely surprised by it, no scouting. And he just kind of stopped, built 3 bunkers, which walled him out of the base, and he slowly was hitting it with one bunker filled with Marines and a tank. And basically Cyan, all of his gateways kicked in, 3 base production, made it like 20 zealots, and just crushed the push like a minute and a half after it arrived, while not even losing his nexus to it. And it was so surprising because it was Coffee doing such a committed push and not really committing to it. That game there, straight into the guts of the natural, immediately sieging up only when the fight started, unsieges, pushes in further forward, starts building bunkers, and he says, look, yeah, you can't pull back from your natural. You can give up your third, but you cannot give up your natural. So I love that adjustment. Coffee being way more decisive today, fixing yesterday's mistakes. That SCV not getting into the unattackable point, though, and the probes will take it down. Not quite working out there for Coffee.
Yeah, never feels good to have that, that pathing not work out for you on the SCV and then having to cancel the bunker. So losing minerals and the worker for no value whatsoever. As the Reaper shows up. Oh, might get a probe. All right. Value achieved.
Gets a little bit of something. Stargate on the way again for MaxSed, and I love the way he's been playing that build. Seems like, I think, no matter what, honestly, it feels like MaxSed just always plays the Phoenix into Quick Robo, Double Immortal, then Colossi. That just seems to be the way he plays, and it seems like he did not adjust really in that last game. So we'll see exactly what he does in this one, but you've got to be wary of those very committed 2-base pushes. That's Coffee's specialty. He's doing the same build order again here. Seems like this is what Coffee goes back to whenever he's under pressure. He's pulled a worker off gas there. I'm not sure if that's on purpose or not. He's 3 on one, 2 on the other. Since you're very low on geysers this game, I think that's a mistake, and that could cost him a little bit when he gets into tank production.
I'm with you on that one. I do think it's a mistake. I don't know of any builds where you just take 1 SCV off gas. You know what I mean? It's like I've seen TVT builds where you take 2 to 3 off, but 1? When you got 2 refineries, doesn't seem quite right. There we go. Yeah, it resaturates it. Doubt that's part of the build. Like you said, with tank production, it gets a little bit dicey because you're spending 125 gas per round on those tanks. Obviously, you want to be able to get not only just make tanks, but also you want to get your bio upgrades, stim, combat shield, whatnot. I haven't seen the 3rd barracks just yet from Coffee.
Yeah, so it might just be a 2 barracks version where he goes into a quicker 3rd CC. And, I actually quite like that because this is going to demand a bit of respect, especially after the way the last game went. And if you as Coffee now just drop a 3rd CC, yeah, look at that. He's just swapping around for more production now. Because he's Coffee, he might still build 5 barracks before the 3rd command center because that's what he likes to do a lot of the time. He's obsessed with his 2-base pushes. But even if he does a 2-base, even all-in, it's like 2 minutes later than the all-in that MaxSed has in his mind from the previous game where he only spotted 2 barracks. So this is actually something which might bait an overreaction. Let's see how MaxSed handles this.
I'm trying to play with the information of MaxSed here. As the Reaper's still alive up here at 12 o'clock. Could come down and reconfirm the 3rd base, but obviously it's starting to run out of steam. Well, Robobay coming in from MaxSed, and it does seem like he's slumming down his 3rd as a little trepidatious after game 4. What went down there?
Cyclone zoning out the Phoenix, so the follow-up scouting not really being able to be gathered. Now, Coffee is not committed to a 3rd barracks or a 3rd command center just yet, and that is very curious. He's adding more upgrades earlier. He's added a 3rd gas. And those Phoenix finally getting to use that energy and pick up a few of these SCVs. Would have liked them to hang around. There was only 2 Marines on that low ground. So They could have hung around a bit longer, but the Cyclone on the high ground pushes them back. No third base for MaxSed. So MaxSed clearly is being way more careful this time around, even though it's actually a lesser commitment from Coffee. So the trick has worked. What?
What?
that wasn't walled off the whole time?
I guess not.
Oh my lord, that's hilarious.
Well, the Reaper just shows up at 5.5 minutes and gets a probe kill. It's not something you see every day. 2 probe kills.
Hey, well worth it. Full scout as well. Sees the delayed third base, which is super important.
And supply
now,
block.
for Coffee, you know, supply block. You know he's stuck on 2 base for such a long time. Does that prompt you to start a third command center? Or are you still saying, hey, let's push into this? Because on this map, it's really hard to make a 2-base push work. I think it's a bit of a fluke in the last game. So I think not building a third command center here is complete madness. But if you kill all the Phoenix, who knows? This could open up some real opportunity.
And because it's Coffee, he's like, what? I have an opportunity to drop. Let's go. Loads them up. Sends 16 Marines to the main base of the Protoss here.
MaxSed knows how he thinks, though. MaxSed knows how he thinks. And he sees it.
Phoenix is looking to intercept here, but it's just 2 Phoenixes. Like, you can dance all day here. You can actually just send your medevacs back home, and the Phoenixes won't even kill one of them because there's only 2.
Yeah.
So Coffee not too worried about this at all.
So I'm going to be a bit critical. I think Coffee's third command center is so late. He's forced an over response. He's got him playing a bit scared. But that third CC is so late, and it's not even on location. And to me, this just kind of feels like, hey, it's romanticide. This is the big macro map. You've even managed to get a bit of an over response. Like, this is the chance where Coffee had to kind of get ahead. Remember, I was talking about third command center earlier into big 3-base pushes of things which Max said he's just going to struggle to have the material to deal with. And with this build especially, look at how late that Twilight Council is. He's not going to have charge for so long. But in this game, it's just going to be they're both kind of going to the next step. However, MaxSed has such an advantage on the robo production that unless you get it like second starport or something, I don't really see when you can start attacking the Protoss outside of catching him way out of position or, you know, multi-dropping and that sort of thing. But front-on fights, I think, are looking fantastic for MaxSed in the immediate term.
Coffee scans here. He's trying to pull the Protoss into his tanks. Get some shots off there as he sends the tanks on siege and moves them forward a little bit. Inching up to the north side. Terran really love to push up this angle because going up that choke point in between the third and the natural of the Protoss, that ramp that's the shortest distance into the Protoss' infrastructure, is very tough. The Observer actually showing us a couple good tank spots here because he's Grandmaster Terran himself and he knows where Terran wants to put their tanks for the maximum spanks. You have to get it up there though, and it's and the Protoss is zoning and making sure that doesn't get up there without a fight.
Indeed. Well, it's a big tank count, and tank production is continuing. And tank production is great, dude. Tanks are an amazing unit. They are so good. Tanks, like, in large numbers versus Colossus. Problem is, charge, mass gateway, Templar archives. There's going to be a lot of Zealot Archon, and that's the sort of army where if it catches you unsieged at all, you know, MaxSed's going to be the one who has kind of the mobility advantage. And remember, he likes to play this single forge style. A lot of players criticize players who don't go double forge and play just this big army. But you know what? MaxSed's always going to be ready for a fight. And sometimes having an extra upgrade or 2 seems nice. You know what's even better? Being in the Terran's face and not letting them push you. Catching their tanks on siege, catching them moving out. And this is something where in about, I don't know, probably 1 minute time, maybe even less, we expect MaxSed to get out there and potentially start looking for those engagements because the Archons, the Zealots add such a big, just mobile fighting force, whereas Coffee's getting even less and less mobile as time goes on. Even though Coffee, I would say, has the more technically ideal army, it needs to get the ideal circumstances to actually work properly, whereas MaxSed's army is going to do really well in the messy fights.
Ghost Academy just finishes here, and we're going to be heading towards that EMP upgrade, as well as getting those special agents out on the map to handle things like Phoenixes and just EMP, the Protoss' army in general, taking all those health points away, the instant splash damage. It makes the Ghost so effective against just regular fights. You know, even if you're not getting rid of High Templar and stuff, like some Terrans do not make the Ghosts against Protoss if they don't see Templar tech, and they are just so good. They really just add a ton of value and a ton more damage to your army. It is disrupt the time though for MaxSed. He is getting the tools out to deal with that directly. Once again, going into 3 Colossi, then getting out the disruptors. Taking his 4th Nexus, expanding a little bit slower this game than previous games. But this time, I gotta say, it looks a lot more solid for Coffee. He's been very patient. He's been very careful. And now he has the army lead that you would expect for a Terran to have in the advantage against a Protoss. And this is an army that I could see just winning this game.
That's a lot of Vikings. So many tanks, 7 tanks. And I was talking about how MaxSed could get out there and start intercepting him. Well, that hasn't happened. MaxSed hasn't stuck to his normal strengths of massing units in the mid game. He's going double Forge, he's gone double Robo, but none of that's ready just yet. And so he's got shield batteries coming up, but against tanks, I don't think shield batteries matter that much. Those tanks, as long as they're very careful and they're using these rocks very well, I really feel MaxSed is going to have to give up this expansion. If he attacks into this area, I think Coffee might have this series.
Look at this little funnel that he's created for himself here. The Disruptors do get 1 tank there, but going into this little choke point, charge lots or not, is just absolutely suicide. Phoenix is coming in, but they are outnumbered by the Vikings and outgunned. They get forced back, and that Nexus doesn't look like it's happening.
Yeah, MaxSed has to give that base up. Is going to have to invest in more units. 11 Zealots warping in, and this is what I said. I mean, Coffee's army is more technically correct if it can set up and fight. Well, MaxSed's afforded him that possibility. What has been happening in this series up to now? Coffee kept trying to drop, kept trying to attack in. MaxSed kept shutting it down and getting way ahead. This time, Coffee showed his patience. Oh, he does eat a big disruptor shot, though. But he's really showed patience to get in this position, and he is inching his way forwards with his tanks. MaxSed, he's sending a big Zealot backstab in. Everything's rallied across the map. Coffee getting a bit greedy here. It means he's got nothing at home to defend. That means he's going to have to try and force the issue, and tanks not that good at forcing their way in against that sort of disruptor army.
You are quite right. Yeah, with nothing at home, he has to absolutely do critical damage here with this army. Disruption Novas come in, a couple of them whiff. The tanks last a little bit longer than potentially they should have. A Nova comes in though, and the tanks have been cleaned up. The Vikings still working on this Colossi in the back line. Both Colossi, oh no, that other one just survives. And these Disruptors actually doing real work there for MaxSed. Oh, Coffee, just not enough at home, not rallying his units into the natural, but instead sending them across the map. And now has lost 25 workers and his big army supply lead.
And therein lies the danger of trying to force a one-directional push-in versus Disruptors. If the Protoss they can afford to backstab with a large portion of their army, because, I mean, with any army, you can't really force your way through Disruptors very quickly. You've got to be very methodical. With tanks, even slower. But Coffee there, I think, gives up his lead by getting a little bit over-eager, and now we're in a very close game. Protoss MaxSed is going to lose his 4th base again, and that means he's back to 3 base up against a 4 base Terran, but he's up 15 workers, and he's got Disruptor tech, so he can rebuild that. His double upgrades are now overtaking the Terran upgrades as well.
Yeah, oh man, Coffee, maybe biting off a little bit more than he could chew here. He's still, because of the damage happening at home, he has to keep doing damage. He has to try and do something to MaxSed here, as MaxSed starts to spiral out of control. Coffee pulls back. I think, honestly, it's the right choice. Hope that MaxSed takes a bad fight, maybe overextends, take a good trade.
Can he find the Disruptors, though? No siege units yet. That's the problem. He's only got 1 or 2 tanks and a couple libs. If he loses that 4th command center, it's a nightmare. That was his one thing that was going to allow him back into the eco game. But no, it goes down, and the Disruptors are zoning. Coffee is angry. He wants revenge. But that just results in him getting smashed by the Disruptors.
Yeah, that lack of patience, that tiger blood, that competitive spirit from Coffee works for him sometimes, but in this series, I feel like it's not worked for him at least a few times, and that is just enough. Oh, Liberator's getting engaged into. I think MaxSed just thinks he's got the units.
Yeah, I think that's just a perfect hold there from MaxSed with that army, and wow, right when it looked like Coffee had showed the patience, showed the adaptability.